Okay. Hello, we got a great show coming up. We're gonna be riffing on a bunch of things. I'm gonna try to go fast. I'm gonna try to keep this again under 60 minutes. And of course, this is your host Dick Lucas. Okay, let's do this. So we're gonna be talking about Chinese Communist Party, Apple and Google monopolies, App Store and ads. Specifically, what the Chinese Communist Party is doing to the Uighur Muslims and the Kazakhs, and what they're doing in Hong Kong. Compound finance. And Reddit, we're going to talk cryptocurrency stuff. Reddit's got 430 monthly active users, and they're looking into scaling Ethereum for their community points platform, which we've discussed. Let's see. We're going to be talking about Trump threatening protesters. We're going to talk about how Bolton's dogging Trump, and we're going to talk about why, in democracy, the only thing that matters is the scoreboard. One person, one vote. So we're going to talk about how to win in a democracy a little bit here. First, I just want to riff on something quickly. Joe Rogan's making some headlines, which I'm kind of sympathetic to the guy. The guy's, he was kind of dogging. If you actually watch the video, he was like kind of making a joke, but not really. Anyway, he was saying, wearing a mask is for bitches, and he was, kind of tongue in cheek about it. But still, he's got a platform. Shouldn't be saying shit. Let me be clear, guys. We can argue about how to open the economy. We can argue which businesses are necessary. We can argue how to do this safely. We can argue about, okay, we can open the schools, but we need, older people. We should be more careful than younger people. That makes sense. There's all these things we can argue, but at the end of the day, just wear a fucking mask. When you're out in public, wear a mask. Full stop. That is the one thing that it's going to help prevent the spread. It more helps prevent the spread, not necessarily you getting it. But it's like just wear a fucking mask. That's one thing that's only going to help the situation. So let's just do that while we're still trying to get our ducks in a row, and get this economy fully open and yeah, just keep preventing the spread. It's going back up. Cases are going back up in the U.S. So just wear a mask. Let's just start there. We can debate all the other things, and it's worthy to debate that stuff. But just wear a fucking mask. I'm gonna be flying in about a week, and I'm going full floor. Obviously not as susceptible, but I'm being really fucking careful because I don't want to give this to other people, especially my own family. So that's why I'm being extra cautious. But even if you're not seeing your folks or seeing older people or whatever, you still wear a mask. Just be fucking careful. That's where we're at on this thing. Okay, so I want to riff on quick. I'm going to try to wrap up by 12:55 p.m. Eastern here, well under that 60 minutes here, but let's get right into it here. Okay, so let's talk about this is something that I think is extremely underreported in Western media. I think, well, a lot of things are being underreported right now because we have the virus, we have the pandemic, which is just there's all this shit that's still happening, but the pandemic's getting a ton of coverage as it should, but there's still a lot of stuff getting drowned out. Secondly, with the George Floyd, with the protests going on in the United States, and all these all the debates happening around that. So there's a lot of stuff that, and as they should, but there's a lot of stuff that's just getting. The world is still churning on, right? There's still things happening, so a lot of stuff doesn't get the coverage it deserves. So this is one of those things that what the Chinese Communist Party, there's this great piece, it's called The Global Implications of Re-Education Technologies in Northwest China by Darren Byler. He's writing for the Center for Global Policy. He also writes at a publication called Sup China, which is pretty hilarious. But it's pretty fucking crazy. It's a very just kind of detached, unemotional piece on just what the facts are, what is going on with the Uighur Muslim population, and how technology, and also the Kazakhs that are there as well, the technology that the Chinese Communist Party is using. I want to be careful. I like saying, don't just say China. It's the Chinese Communist Party, right? Because China, let's be specific about what we're talking about. We're talking about the Chinese Communist Party. It's interesting. There was I went to a Holocaust memorial or museum in Berlin, and one of the things they would always they talked about in everything that was written. They were dogging on the democratic socialism, specifically calling that out when they were talking about very apologetic, of course, Germany has all this stuff for free you can see, and that owns the history and what happened there. But they use the term democratic socialism. They're constantly dogging that specific party, because remember, Hitler won, I think, with he had a plurality, not a majority. I think he got in the Democratic Socialist Party, got him with 35% of the vote or something like that. Anyway, so it's just interesting. I want to get the terminology right. So, because it's like, we're not talking about China, we're not talking about Chinese culture, we're not talking about Chinese people. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the Chinese Communist Party, and what they're doing. So it's pretty insane on what the technologies that they're using to these quote unquote re-education camps, and also monitor these different peoples, and it initially started out, and admittedly I don't understand why why it started out, but it initially started out under the guise of preventing domestic terrorism. So that's why they claim that they're doing all this stuff. But I'm going to read a few things here. So here we go. Because of the re-education system, it is likely that within a single generation, Muslim-embodied practice in Turkic languages in northwest China will cease to provide essential ways for Uyghurs and Kazakhs to sustain their knowledge systems. So it's just it's really a campaign. It's an outright destruction of a people's culture in this region. And we're not talking about a small number of people, and the UN condemned it. I think the US has done some sanctions here and there. But this is probably, as far as I know, this is the biggest campaign against a group of people right now, that is super, super coordinated. And I didn't want to tweet this because I don't like making false. I think false equivalency is a big issue, and people say things. A lot of the Nazi Party gets thrown around. Everyone gets called Hitler. Obama's Hitler. Trump's Hitler. Everyone's Hitler. I want to be very careful saying that. But when reading this piece, I can only think in Germany and how systemic it was. It's true. It's crazy. I think some estimates are there's been a million Uighur Muslims put in these camps. There's talks of all these checkpoints and all this data they're using, this facial recognition stuff they're using at checkpoints. They have tools to monitor people's devices, so you have to hand over your device to a private police officer. So listen to this. So policing per capita in the Uyghur region itself now exceeds that of East Germany before the fall of the Berlin Wall. That is absolutely insane. But there's this whole suite of technologies from these Chinese companies, many of which MIT, the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Navy are funding research with some of these companies. So on one hand, the United States is there are sanctions against some of these Chinese companies. Amazon's working with one of them. So there is a little bit of that, but there's not enough. This is a really, really big deal, and any free country anywhere should look at this and be very, very scared by it, because this is China's no joke. They are a behemoth. And for a country to be doing this and not be this is why an alliance is so important. This is why Trump dogging the alliance. And yes, NATO partners probably be paying more. 2% of GDP, I think, is what they've said they would pay. Should they be paying more for their own defense? Absolutely. They agreed to it. They're not doing it. They should do it. The way he's gone about dogging them is absolutely not helpful. But this is why you need an alliance, right? This is why it's important. It's important to this should be condemned in the from a broad base of powerful democracies. They should, and it has in the UN and stuff, but I just think there should be a lot more going on here. We're talking about also, one of the things they talk about is light inside cells and facial recognition that detects if your eyes are closed, and if you are, a guard yells at you, so you're forced to just stay awake, and it's torture. So it's pretty insane. Reading this piece, it's just it's crazy. And they're hiring a lot of private police officers, so not just government workers, or not just the government police force, but they need to hire so many people that they're hiring actually private police officers as well. And people you see accounts, people are just getting disappeared. People are gone. And this is real stuff happening. And of course we'll get into this. Trump, well, I might as well just say it now, but Trump Bolton's new book. I forgot the title, but Bolton's new book has some damning lines from Trump. Trump actually said that these re-education camps were a good thing. Assumingly, he said that because they were targeted at Muslims, which is, of course, wrong, and it's disgusting. But another interesting thing about this, though, and this piece talks about, is the U.S. and allies' strategy of countering violent extremism. A lot of what the Chinese strategy are doing, they're basing some of that off of this countering violent extremism that the U.S. and allies use this kind of strategy to fight terrorism. Now, this is on a whole nother level. This is to their own people. This is in their own country, and they're targeting a very specific group of people because of their religion. And China has a history of they don't like people. They don't like religion of any sort because they want you to be dedicated to the state. They want you that's the way their operation works. But they call it preventative policing, which makes me think of Minority Report, like pre-crime. So they're preventing. That's another thing in this piece. It talks about risk factors. You're judged on all these different ratings, and based on X, Y, and Z, it says your risk factor. And there are all these kind of arbitrary factors that go into it. But this is something that I think should be getting a hell of a lot more attention. They also talk about weekly flag raising ceremonies in communities. There'll be like a community leader in some of these communities with large Uighur populations, and they'll be the base of operations to communicate with the Chinese Communist Party leadership. And keep the lines of communication going with the mothership in these communities. But they have weekly flag raising ceremonies in their homes, and all I could think of was this whole debate around Colin Kaepernick, whether he should have kneeled or whether he can kneel, whether we as a country, our leagues, should compel people not to kneel, compel people to stand during the national anthem. And if you want to compel people to do a certain thing with regards to your country, with regards to your flag, with regards to your national anthem, look at what the CCP is doing. You want to learn how to do that? You want to learn what it is to actually diminish what it means to be proud of your country? You want to force people to be proud of it? No. That's not how it works. You give people the freedom to not stand, which makes the people that are standing, it makes it that much more. It makes it mean something. If everyone has to stand, if everyone has to do anything, or else they'll get in trouble, or they'll be punished, or they'll be disappeared, it doesn't mean anything. So in a free country that is the United States, we all have the right to kneel or stand. Full stop. Now we can have discussions about whether should what you're kneeling about, what is right to kneel about, but ultimately it's not up to me. It's up to the person kneeling. If they want to kneel, that's their right. If they don't want to stand up, we don't dictate what you can do with regards to the flag. In fact, this is a Supreme Court case. You're allowed to burn the American flag, and that went to the Supreme Court. You're legally allowed to burn the American flag. I'm almost 100% sure on that, but I could be misspeaking, but I'm damn near sure on that. And of course you should be able to burn the American flag. I love it. Taking this little thing out of context. Like that's what the American flag is all about. That's what freedom is. That's what a free country is. It's not about limiting people's ability to do certain things. I mean, that's what the freedom of speech is, literally be able to protect what you can do, protect what you can say, and the government's not allowed to intervene in that. That's the whole point of it. So we are allowed to peaceably petition our government. If I personally felt the United States was turning into a hellscape, then that's a reasonable thing to do. So of course, that's why I'm a big believer. I wouldn't burn the flag. That's not my bag. I don't think and I don't want to burn the flag now, but I'm just making the point that freedom of speech is important, and it needs to be protected, and it makes the people, it makes a free society freer, well, it's actually not free if you don't have freedom of speech. And it makes the people that stand, it makes the people that do believe in the flag, that do honor the flag, that do speak up for this country, it makes it mean something, because there's not some secret party, there's not some party that's running the show that's going to disappear your family if you don't go on CNN and be a proud American. That's not going to happen in this country. So I thought that was connected. I thought that was an interesting piece on what they have with these flag raising ceremonies. So I also came across a poem that was written by Sung Tung Po, Chinese poet. It was written 1,000 years ago. It's called On the Birth of a Son. I thought it was pretty hilarious. We're going to go through this. Here it is. Families when a child is born, and it was translated, of course. Su Tung Po was Chinese, so this was translated by, forget it, Arthur something. I forget his name, but who translated? But here it goes. Families when a child is born, hope it will turn out intelligent. I, through intelligence, having wrecked my whole life, only hope that the baby will prove ignorant and stupid. Then he'll be happy all his days and grow into a cabinet minister, which I love that. That was 1,000 years ago. And of course, to climb the Fukin ranks in the Chinese Communist Party, it's not about being the smartest, not about being the best, it's not about being who's going to be the best for the people, what are they going to be the best policies. No. It's about kissing ass and making sure that you don't step on any toes and you climb that Fukin ladder, become a cabinet minister. So it's just fine. We talk about this on the show a lot. A lot of the problems we're dealing with now are problems we dealt with, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. We're going to be dealing with them 1,000 years, 2,000 years from now. That's just how it works. We're not that different from the people 2,000 years ago. We got iPhones and we shower more, but come on. Okay, so related, we're going to talk about Hong Kong and China for a little bit. We've been talking a lot about that show, but basically, quick recap. China. The UK handed Hong Kong over to China. And there was supposed to be 50 years that Hong Kong could govern themselves. And they had this basic, the basic law, capital B, capital L, basic law, that Hong Kong basically, laid out. They can govern themselves. China only has authority in foreign relations stuff. And what we've seen, and that was in 96, I believe. So they still got a long runway on them governing themselves. China said, no, fuck that. We're gonna move in. There's been a ton of Hong Kong protests. I stand with people in Hong Kong. I love what they're doing. They're fighting for freedom. It's a very, very precious thing. I think it is the most precious thing. As a civilization, as a species, I get shivers when people are I will always be a fan of protesting, and I don't care if I agree or disagree with you. Protesting is a fundamental part of a well-functioning society. And we talk about this, people protesting the lockdowns. Again, was I out there protesting? No. Did I support the protest? No. Did I support the right to protest? Absolutely. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is we start picking and choosing who can protest. And as soon as we're picking and choosing who can protest, the whole point of the protesting in general just becomes a moot point. If we said, okay, people can't protest during a pandemic, let's just carve that. Let's add that in an amendment. Okay, well, slippery slope. Okay, well, when does the pandemic end? Couldn't a government or local government say technically the pandemic's still going? Like there's no. And then what if then it's during a national emergency, you're not allowed to protest. Then it's like boom, it just gets worn down. These things don't happen overnight. It's boiling the toad, and what we're seeing with Trump's wearing down of our institutions. There's been a loss of faith in those things. It happens over decades. It's a constant fight to keep these institutions strong. It's a constant fight to keep these beautiful rights that our founding fathers and the founding people of this nation, the people that came before us, our ancestors, that they fought for and they held sacred, and we got to do the same thing. So freedom of speech, freedom to protest, absolutely. People of Hong Kong. So anyway, there was an update. Sometime in the last couple months, the Hong Kong government updated its basic law website to insert the Chinese constitution into its PDF version of basic law, coming before the basic law, of course. So their basic law. Imagine you have our U.S. Constitution. A foreign power said, okay, here's your constitution, but we're gonna put our seal above it. And we're going to put our laws above it. I believe that's what happened. Basically, you don't edit the Fukin. You don't edit a document like this that's governing your people. You don't just that's not how it works. It needs to go through the proper channels. They just Fukin hot swapped it, and this will be something that's not going to be over. Again, we talk in decades on this show. That's what's we talk about things that we think are going to matter in decades, or not just things that are going to matter. A lot of things we talk about on the show, specific instances, like for example these Bolton comments. I don't think we'll be talking about the Bolton comments in a decade, but what we will be talking about is the degradation of our institutions under the Trump presidency. Full stop. That we will be dealing with the repercussions of that for decades to come. So I think the Chinese Communist Party is this is not gonna go away. I think they're gonna get more and more. They're going to do more and more things like this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The border of India and China. They're encroaching on. There's some border disputes, and it hasn't heated up like that in years. So China's starting to flex more, which is why it's even more. I'm not saying an anti-China, West versus East. No. I'm saying that any free democracy government needs to band together, and we should be condemning in the most absolute possible terms what the Chinese government is doing on multiple fronts, what they're doing in Hong Kong. And we talked about the UK possibly giving Hong Kong a path to citizenship if China keeps it up, if they get rid of this basic law and don't let Hong Kong people govern themselves. So this is going to be a big trend over the next couple decades. We're going to be covering it on No Grading. We're going to be riffing on it because that's where a lot of the stuff is. So Hong Kong people, keep doing your thing, keep fighting for freedom. I would love if the U.S. did a little more. The U.S. has been condemning the Chinese Communist Party for their actions with this, but I wish the United States was doing more. This is the time to step up. Perhaps even a path to citizenship, like what the UK is doing, something like that. We need anyone fighting for democracy. We've been more pure than that, and that's what we need to stand up for. That's why this whole great American experience got started, because we wanted to govern ourselves. Boom, full stop. And we need to honor that, and we need to help others do the same. Okay, so we're gonna get in a little into the iOS App Store controversy here. So a lot of people are probably not familiar with this, but this is blown up in the tech space, tech Twitter. If you're interested in technology, you've probably seen articles on it. But it goes a little something like this. So the App Store has always taken a 30-70 revenue split. So initially, before there were in-app purchases, when you would just buy an app, there was a 37 revenue split. So if you sold an app for 99 cents, boom, Apple got 30 cents of that. But now there's very few apps you actually pay for fully up front. Right now there's in-app purchases, which there's this whole a lot of apps have moved to a subscription model. For the record, Google Play does the same thing. They do 30-70 split. They're not as harsh, and the review process isn't as harsh. We'll talk more about that. But also, what's interesting is the Windows Store, when Windows Phone was a thing for a little bit, I believe they only took 10%, which I thought was interesting. They obviously had to do that because they had to get people to their platform. They had to get developers over there. So they literally had, even 10% is high. Like, come on, that's even high. But 30% is ridiculous. So the reason this is in the news now is Apple's review policy has always been a total fucking nightmare. I've dealt with it personally on some of the projects I've worked on. I've heard other people's personally experiences with it. I've read about people's experiences with it. It is, and Benedict Evans had some good tweets on this. So here's the deal. With an iPhone today, there's no way to install an app on your device other than through the App Store. Like, you can't I can't come up with an app and distribute it to you. Like, you can do like test flight stuff. You can run betas of things. It doesn't have to, but it's a total nightmare. A device that you have purchased, the only way to get software on that device is to go through the nanny that is the App Store. Now, let me just say, Benedict Evans has some good arguments. The App Store, it's absolutely, it's been a good thing in a lot of ways, right? It's a curated app list, and there's not just anything that's allowed in there. They screen it to make sure that the app isn't doing anything nefarious to its users, and that is absolutely important. So there's a benefit. Again, There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs, right? So that is there's been an absolute good on that end. But there is a middle ground. Similar, imagine your fucking computer. Everyone's used to, imagine 10 years ago before it was all about mobile. Imagine you could, remember when we installed apps on our computers? There's no fucking app store. So macOS has an app store now, but you can still totally install an app on your device, on your Mac, without going through the fucking app store. It's your device. You should be allowed to determine what is on that. And the way they do that is when you try to open it, if it doesn't go through the app store, it's not a certified publisher or whatever, they block it. And it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. They say, okay, you can't open this app because it's not certified, whatever. You go into the security settings, you say open anyway. Boom. This is my device. Back away. I can do this. So that's the kind of thing. I don't know why the iPhone doesn't have that. Have a setting to at least allow people to install the apps they want on Android. For context, you can install any app you want on your device. Now, granted, do I ever do this on a regular basis? And I would consider myself a power user. Do I do this on a regular basis? No. In fact, I almost never do it. I always go through Google Play. But you can at least do it. I can at least get an APK. That's the Android app file. I can get an APK and I can install it on my device. And I do have to accept those permissions. So I have to say, okay, I'm not installing it through Google Play. I understand the risk of that, blah, blah, blah. But at least I can do it. On the iPhone, you cannot do that. And what does that mean? That means that the App Store has a monopoly on distribution on their operating system, iOS. And Ben Thompson of Stratechery, who, if you're interested in tech at all, I think he's the single greatest mind in tech right now speaking about it. It's insane. You pay $120 a year for the amazing, amazing newsletter, daily update, 4 times a week. He lays it all out for you. He's an amazing, amazing, amazing journalist. I almost feel like it's dogging him to only call him a journalist because he seems like he's more than a journalist. He's incredible. But anyway, he talked about, and he's got a lot of stories from people talking about how they are afraid to speak out against Apple because they're afraid of getting their apps removed from the App Store or the App Store pulling any number of levers on which to delay updates to your app. So if you have a bug in your app, you have to push an update. The fucking nanny state that is the App Store has to allow you to push that update to users. They have to moderate it, and they have to go through it and scan it and do all this bullshit. Well, it's not all bullshit. I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of good things that they're doing. But they can hold you hostage. They can hold your entire business hostage. And he was saying that people are more afraid of the App Store now than the monopoly that is the App Store than they were of Microsoft 20 years ago with some of the monopolistic practices that Microsoft Windows was doing. And I think it's absolutely right. So the reason this all came to head was because there's this app called Hey, which is an email client. It's an email app. It's an iOS, Android web app by the creators of Basecamp. They push it. It costs $99 a year, and you can get it. So $99 a year, you get access to it. You pay for it through the web, so you don't have to give Apple 30%. So Apple doesn't take 30% of your fucking business. I think the range is actually 15 to 30%. Either way, it's a total anti-consumer, anti-business monopoly, horrible move on Apple's part. But the creators of Hey, they initially released it. Okay, version 1 came out, perfect. They tried to push updates to it, they got denied. And DHH, something Handmeister, I forget his full name. Anyway, he's at DHH on Twitter. He's one of the founders of, he's one of the creators of Hey, and he also created Ruby on Rails. So he's a pretty, and he was like a race car driver too. He's broke some records there. The guy's an absolute savage. I don't agree with a lot of his, many of his opinions. He's kind of a bit of an internet troll, kind of. Online, he'll say things. It's like, okay, dude. It's part of some of it's a little bit marketing, but he's absolutely dead on. He spoke up. He said, this is bullshit. We're getting denied. And fortunately, I commend him for speaking up because this certainly adds risk to their business. But so many businesses, as Ben Thompson found out, so many businesses are afraid to speak up because they don't want the App Store, the fucking mob that is the App Store, to shutter their business. Apple is wielding a lot of power here. In fact, I think, on Android you can have, there's alternative app stores. Again, no one uses them. Amazon had an alternative app store on Android for a little while, but it's always there, and it's always, and even, are there actual competitors to Google Play, which is the app store on Android? Not really. No, there aren't. But the point is, is that on iOS there is, and they wield that to try to collect rent, and they're spitting in the face of the developers that made the iPhone platform what it is today, I think Apple's getting. It's the most valuable company in the world. They've made an excellent product with the iPhone. They make really, really good products. They're a great company, and they're starting to get they're starting to get in their own head about it. And we need to call this out, and I'm glad there's a conversation around it because it's total bullshit. That app, I keep fighting the good fight. It'll be interesting. WWDC, their conference every year, is coming up, so it'll be interesting to see what they say with regards to that. I'm sure they might issue a statement. Oh, also the best thing is they issued a statement to the Hey founders. They said something blah 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 something, and they said, oh, and also you've had millions of users on Basecamp, which also you have to, which is a paid app that we have let you. We've given you the opportunity to make money off that because we so graciously let that app in the App Store without charging 30%. So it was almost a threat. It was like, yo, push us here, we will take 30% of that, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, where they draw the line is SaaS companies, right? So the Slacks of the world. Basecamp is mostly used by businesses, so they don't take that 30% cut. But with consumer apps, that's kind of where they draw the line. They say, okay, if it's a consumer app, we're going to take 30%. But it's like 30%, dude. That's a fucking joke. This is way too high. It was high back then. It's high now. It's insane. It's anti-competitive. It's anti-consumer. It's anti-business. It is rent-seeking. It adds absolutely zero value to anything, to the world. All it does is add to Apple's bottom line in the short term. It's going to hurt them in the long term. It's taken Microsoft a decade to get over the amount of hate. I still talk to Apple fanboys. There's hate for Microsoft for all the bullshit they did with their with their monopolistic practices. If Apple keeps going down this way, it will take a decade for them to curry favor again. Apple, don't turn into the bad guy. Do not turn into the bad guy. And Ben Thompson also makes the point that, and we've talked about this on the show, Apple, they beat their chest about privacy this, privacy that. And they deserve credit for it. They absolutely deserve credit. But they get too much credit. They're working with they are working with the Chinese Communist Party, a state-backed cloud organization, a cloud company, to store iCloud data in China. Full stop. All Chinese citizens that use iPhones, their data is completely insecure. Full stop. And China doesn't get dogged on for 1 second for that. Why? Because China's their biggest market. Because they're making most of their money in China, so they got to play nice with the People's Republic of China, that Chinese Communist Party. Who Xi Jinping? Let's be clear, Xi Jinping is a dictator. They changed something a couple years ago. He's in it for life, basically. But he's in it. And similar thing going on with Russia. Putin's trying to fucking. I think it's every 6 years they got to renew his dictatorship because it's absolutely a dictatorship. He's a thug. Xi Jinping is a thug. These people are thugs. Anyway, Apple gets a lot of credit, and there's some things they're doing that are not that chill, to say the least. So, Apple, the tech world is watching. Don't screw this up. Get rid of the 3070 altogether. Just get rid of it. Just how amazing would that be if they said, we make money hand over fist. We want to be the platform people come to develop on. We want to honor our developers. We're going to go. Don't charge anything. Don't charge anything for your app store. The app store is for the users. Don't pretend that these businesses you're gracing them with the ability to distribute their software. What you're doing is you're preventing them from being able to distribute their software, right? Because you're only accepting a certain number of apps through, and you're making exceptions, and you're forcing them to jump through hoops and do all this shit. So just drop that to 0%. Just do the right thing. Do the right thing. Or figure out another way to monetize it. I mean, you monetize it through the sale of your devices. So I don't know. Figure it out. But what you're doing is not right. Not right in the slightest. So the world is watching. We'll be on your ass about it. Okay, let's talk about cryptocurrency stuff. We haven't talked about cryptocurrency stuff in a while. So we are going to, let's riff on that for a couple seconds here. So there's a company called Compound Finance. We've riffed on this. The Compound Finance is a platform built on Ethereum, which is Ethereum is a cryptocurrency platform that allows you to basically build unstoppable applications. You can build software, granted limited software. You can't just you can't just host a Facebook on Ethereum. It's not that level, not that level yet. But they built a lending platform on it, so you can lend out U.S. U.S. Stable coins, U.S. dollar denominated stable coins. There's the basic attention token, Ether. You can lend out these cryptocurrencies on the Compound Finance platform, and you get an interest rate. It's a great thing, and it's all non-custodial. What that means is they never have they never own your cryptocurrency. They never own it. You lend it out, but the way the platform works and the reason it's auditable is because it's all done in smart contract code, open source. Everyone can verify it. Everyone can see it. No one can mess with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful project. And what they recently did was I think they were founded in 2016 or 2017. What they recently did though, they released a governance token called Comp, and what that is it allows you to vote on proposals. So if you have the Comp token, you can change the network. So they built this company. They built a service. They built something that provides value to the world. And what they then did is said, okay, we're going to give this to the community. We're going to allow it to be open. We're going to allow people to change the platform, and it's not going to be under our control. It's going to be under the community's control. Well, so I think half is going to the community, half is still going to retain their control. But that doesn't mean the people that currently have it, they can't sell it and get value from that, as they should get compensated for creating something epic. But what you can do is if you have at least 100,000, you can propose something, and then you can vote on it. I even voted on it. I have very little comp, but I was able to vote on something. And it's community governance. It's building a network and then giving that to the community. Over the next 4 years, you just get comp. So the more money or the more assets you're lending or borrowing on the comp platform, the more you get. And that makes sense, right? If you're using the platform, you should be able to govern how that platform is used. So it's a beautiful, beautiful situation. And I think a lot of these, and we've talked about this in our Crypto is the Wild West episode. Imagine if Facebook or Twitter, it's the users that made Facebook great. It's the users that made Twitter great. It's the users that did that, and they captured zero value. Having Twitter followers is cool. You get a following. There are cool things you get, whatever. Having Facebook following, whatever. But zero direct monetary value. Imagine if in the future, and this is where I think we're going. There's going to be communities online that are built where it's not just the users doing all the work, and this one gatekeeper, the data, the one gatekeeper of the platform, the one gatekeeper decides how it's gonna happen, or excuse me, how it's gonna be governed, what changes are gonna be made. It's given to the users. So I really think that's where we're going with this, and I think it's super interesting. So the Compound Finance thing, I tweeted this out. I'm just going to read it. It said, build something, create tokens, give those tokens away, give control over the protocol to token holders, open source everything, let the internet take care of the rest. It's truly beautiful. People, I'm going to keep talking about this because I've never held the mic like this. There is an absolute revolution happening in internet protocol community technology right now. It's absolutely absurd, and we're just getting fucking started. I recommend, if you're interested in this stuff at all, I recommend Coinbase Wallet. Not Coinbase.com. You can get some crypto there, but then get Coinbase Wallet. Coinbase Wallet is a separate app that allows you to actually engage with cryptocurrency. Loan some money on Compound Finance. Put $10, put $15. Use it. Be able to play with it. It's super, super interesting. It's super fun, and there's some really interesting stuff going on. And I think we're in for a hell of a future with this. I'm so excited, because imagine a Twitter where the users get to control what kind of content stays on there, and not just a cabal of people in Silicon Valley. Imagine a Facebook where all the ad revenue doesn't go to a centralized source. Imagine if it returns to the users. Now, we're far out from something like that. Maybe 10 years, I don't know. But the building blocks are starting to become in place. I'm telling you, this stuff is super, super, super interesting. And a lot of people talk of, oh, data this, Facebook, break them up, blah, blah, blah. Don't even waste your time. Honestly, I think the greatest thing is that's going to be that's going to fight that is a cryptocurrency network. I sincerely believe that it's going to fight the Googles of the world. Anything with centralized data, I do think cryptocurrency networks and end-to-end encryptions. You truly own your data. There is a renaissance happening. There are the makings of a renaissance happening right now, and it is very interesting to follow. Okay, let's keep going here. Reddit made a post. We talked about their community points. They started a beta. They started a pilot. Every Reddit app is now a cryptocurrency wallet. Full stop. For r/cryptocurrency and r/Fortnite, you can get the more you do on the platform, the more upvotes you get, et cetera, et cetera. You get community points, and what can you do with these community points? They give you certain benefits, but you own the community points. So if Reddit goes under, the community points are yours. They're in your wallet. You can then do what you want with them. But so anyway, they announced they're calling for scaling projects. Now, what does it mean by scaling? What do they mean by scaling projects? If they have 430 million monthly active users, we thought it was around 300 million in 2018, 20. The platform is growing, but they just said that we have 430 million. This is one of the largest internet platforms on the internet talking about cryptocurrency. This isn't. Listen, I'm not in my mom's basement with a beard, long hair, just talking psychobabble bullshit. Okay, I'm talking about one of the largest internet platforms on planet Earth. Seriously looking into cryptocurrency. I'm telling you, the lack of coverage of cryptocurrency is mind blowing to me. There are things here that are so interesting that have so much potential, and nobody gives a shit. And it blows my mind. It's very interesting. I'm so excited. I can't even contain it. Okay, so what they called for, they're calling for proposals to somehow scale this community point. So initially to just thousands of users, but ultimately they want to roll this out to their whole thing. I mean, that would be probably at least a few years down the road. But they're calling for scaling projects because right now, Ethereum, it can't handle. I think what is it? It's something like on the order of dozens of transactions per second or something, but it's not enough to be able to run a whole platform on. So they want a scaling solution. So basically a layer 2 solution built on top of Ethereum that still has the security guarantees of the blockchain, but they can go a lot faster. So have thousands of transactions per second and not cost nearly as much. Because right now it costs money to do things on the Ethereum blockchain. If you get a Coinbase wallet and you start lending on Compound Finance, the minor fees, you pay like a few bucks to do some of these transactions. To send money, it's very cheap. To send like Ether to someone or send stablecoin, it's very cheap. But to do anything meaningful or do anything, you're costing a few bucks every time you mess with that. I've probably spent at this point like a couple $100 in fees just playing with this stuff. But it's totally worth it because I think it's super interesting. So cryptocurrency, I'm telling you, watch out for it. And I just saw before I did Bloomberg Crypto. They just said Acon's releasing his own cryptocurrency called Acoin, and I'm not even going to read anything about it. Well, I probably should. Willful ignorance is never a good thing, but it's like he's been talking about releasing his own cryptocurrency for a while. This is why people think cryptocurrency is a scam, because celebrities get associated with it, and they're like, oh, I'm releasing my own cryptocurrency. That's not how this works. The whole point of cryptocurrency is that it's not centered around an individual. It's the community that owns it. So if you see anyone shilling their own cryptocurrency, just walk away, because that defeats the whole point of it. Okay, let's talk about demonetization for a second. Okay, so this is from The Verge. This was Google preventing their ads, preventing Zero Hedge and the Federalist, but they undid the Federalist had a comment section, and Google didn't like what was going on in the comment section. And they said you can't advertise on the platform. They recently walked that back, but let me read this. This is from The Verge. Google says it's banning the site Zero Hedge from its Google Ads program for racist content, but it reversed plans to ban a second site, The Federalist, after the site removed comments from its articles. This is Google. We have strict publisher policies that govern the content ads can run on and explicitly prohibit derogatory content that promotes hatred, intolerance, violence, or discrimination based on race from monetizing. The company said in a statement to NBC News before the reversal. When a page or site violates our policies, we take action. In this case, we've removed both sites' ability to monetize with Google. So Google absolutely has the right to do this. And in fact, if people are within your company and are like, yo, look at these. Look at some of these sites that are using our platform to make money. These don't stand for our values. It's apparently, I didn't read the comments explicitly, but apparently what was going on in the Federalist were racist comments. So Google absolutely has the right to do this. But I just want to always look at these things in context, right? The ad space on the web is basically it's basically a duopoly. You got Facebook and Google. There's not much choice for publishers to how to monetize their content. So always look at this stuff in context. And then also Gab, which is a Twitter alternative, which is a lot more, which kind of allows community governments and allows things that Twitter would normally ban. Allows it to the Gab platform allows that content to be on there. Visa recently said they would stop processing payments for them. I always put this stuff in context. Now I'm worried. I always worry when publications for the things they're saying are having basic infrastructure like payments removed from them because the things that are going on that site. Now, these things on these sites specifically, the things that were going on these sites, yeah, heinous stuff. I don't agree with any of it for a second, but I fear a world where I'm ultimately of the belief that let the best ideas win. Let freedom of speech, let it happen. Let these ideas get out here. Now, again, freedom of speech, First Amendment protects you from the government doing this. This isn't Google. Totally is within their rights to do this. But I always fear about anything where ideas are getting silenced by major institutions, especially in a situation of a duopoly, which is internet advertising. And Apple's quote-unquote privacy-first stuff on Safari where they can't do, cookies can't track you. Well, what does that do? That makes Facebook more powerful and Google more powerful, and there's even less competition now because the smaller ad networks can't compete and can't watch what you're doing across these websites. Now, you may say, oh, good, screw them. Well, you just made Google and Facebook more powerful. And Ben Thompson made that point. With regards to Apple, so I'm a big fan of a lot of things he says on this stuff. But I'm always weary of things like this. I'm always watching for it, which is why I'm very interested in cryptocurrency. I'm very interested in cryptocurrency platforms. I'm very interested in community governance. I think that Twitter. I would love to be able to decide what I can and cannot see on Twitter. I would love. I'm an adult. I believe that I'm, I can handle dangerous ideas. I can see them. I can read them and not be infected by them. In fact, I can learn from them and learn how to argue them better. And actually, I know that they're out there. So I would love a platform where I could say, okay, I could decide, like I could kind of join a group that says, okay, we're going to moderate content this way, or I could set up, it could be a community-run filter that says we will filter out specifically these things, or I could just turn every filter off and just let me have the shit that's coming out. Let me just let everything, don't censor anything, but give that control to the user. And there's trade-offs to this stuff. There are trade-offs to all this, but ultimately that's where I fall in this. Okay, we've got 12 minutes. This has been epic. Okay, we're going to talk about Trump's tweet, which I actually think is one of the worst things he said. He said a lot of heinous shit. He said a lot of dog whistle racist shit. The guy is a travesty. And I don't spend a lot of time on this podcast just dogging because, frankly, so many people do that. It's tiresome. And frankly, no matter what Trump does, they'll just say, oh, he's a jackass, and it's like that just gets tiresome. That's not how political debate works. It's just at this point, it's just a constant. But this, I saw this tweet, and it was just, this was, again, you know how I feel about freedom of speech. You know how I feel about the right to protest, which is a very American right. He said this. Trump said this in regards to his rally that he's hosting today in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Any protesters, anarchists, agitators, looters, or lowlifes who are going to Oklahoma, please understand you will not be treated like you have been in New York, Seattle, or Minneapolis. It will be a much different scene. He said protesters. Any protesters who are going to Oklahoma, you will not be treated kindly like you were in New York. So he's basically saying the police are gonna hurt you. He's talking at protesters. People are not allowed to protest what he's doing. He's threatening. Listen. Looters, anarchists, agitators. Yeah, sure, that stuff. Okay, at least on some level, there's, people. If people are destroying things, okay, I get it. That's a whole other thing. But protesters, just someone protesting. If I'm going to peaceably hold a sign that says, vote for Biden 2020 or something. You're gonna threaten a regular protester. That is heinous. That is not something that is. It goes totally. It's totally anti to American values. It's totally anti to democratic values. It's totally anti to modern civil civil values. The reason society has come so far in the last several hundred years is because we have the right to protest, because we have the right to freedom of speech, is because we don't have strong men in positions of power that are silencing people. Okay, this is some third world strong man, not United States shit coming out of his mouth right now. Okay, that is, and he's done a lot of stuff like this, admittedly, but to call so clearly any protesters, that is heinous. That is disgusting. But okay, so I want to say that, and we're gonna keep going here. I want to end about 5 minutes early. Here we go. So Bolton came out with a book. I love these people come out with books. Now, I haven't read the book, and I don't know all the details, and frankly, Bolton, who knows why why come out with a book? Why did you not say this shit? Why were you not crying from the rooftops like a while back? You would have still got your book deal, dude. The thing is, even if you didn't do it for the money, which maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know his motives. Wouldn't you think at least get this stuff out first, then you'll get the book deal. Then you can do a deeper dive, but at least say some of this shit. Now, obviously, if you're national security advisor, you're in that position. There's a certain level of respect you need to have for the institution of the presidency. I totally get that. But then resign and then say this shit. Don't leak anything, private or not private, but anything that would hurt the United States or reveal secrets, whatever. That would be super bad or whatever. But there's a line. So I just wonder why does it take so long? People, we need you to speak up. We need you to speak up. So here's a couple quotes. But in June, in the book, in June 2019, Xi explained to Trump why he was basically building concentration camps in Xinjiang. Trump said that Xi should go ahead with building the camps, which Trump thought was exactly the right thing to do. Trump turned the conversation to the coming U.S. presidential election, pleading with Xi to ensure he'd win. He stressed the importance of farmers and increased Chinese purchases of soybeans and wheat in the electoral outcome. Are you kidding me? So granted, I take everything with a grain of salt. Be skeptical. I don't know how many people corroborated this, but I know Pompeo. I just saw something. He slipped him a note during a meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Who's also I should point out, yes, that is also straight thuggery. So North Korea, I don't know how many millions of people there, but they're all also under, I mentioned that the Chinese Communist Party action against the Uighur Muslims, that's about 1 million Muslims. It's absolutely heinous. North Korea is doing some absolutely heinous stuff as well. But yeah, yeah. So those were the quotes. It's crazy. Jesus. Okay. But I want to get this constructive now, because Susan Rice, who's a former national security advisor to Barack Obama, she had some comments. And I saw these because I follow some publications that do support Trump, or some follow people that do support Trump, just to see what they're saying, because it's important so that we can talk about it. But she was dogged on because she said this. Trump and Trump supporters belong in the trash heap of history. Okay, so here's what I want to say. First of all, in a democracy, the scoreboard is the only thing that matters. One person, one vote. Whoever gets the most votes gets the power. You do not get points for dunking on someone. You don't get points for personal attacks. You don't get points for making fun of another political party. You don't get more points for saying Trump supporters are fucking fat, stupid, ugly, whatever you want to say about him, or you don't get points for saying, the libs are weak, tree huggers, blah, blah, blah. You don't get any points for that. This is a democracy. You know what you get points for? It's the motherfucking scoreboard is the only thing that matters in a democracy. And you know what that scoreboard is? It's one vote, one person. You want to win. You want power in a democracy. You don't win it with personal attacks. Okay? How was Hillary Clinton saying Trump supporters were a basket of deplorables? How'd that work out? You know what they did? They rallied around it. It gave them conviction. It gave them power. It gave them purpose. Saying Trump supporters belong in the trash heap of history does absolutely nothing. It might feel good to say in the moment. You might get some people like, oh, look, you stood up to them. You stood up to Trump. Listen, dog Trump all you want. Dog Trump. But when you start attacking the supporters, that's when it loses the message. In order to get votes, you need to convince people to vote for you. You need to convince them to come on your side. In order to do that, don't make them feel stupid. Don't say you got to clearly point out what the facts are. Okay, don't make them feel bad. Don't insult them. No personal attacks ad hominem. That's not how this works. You just rally the other side. Okay? So I encourage you as we get even closer to the election. First of all, vote.org, register to vote. Register right now. They make it super easy. It's like signing up for a Google account. I think that you have to print some forms out and you do have to mail them. You do mail in. But to get ready to vote. And don't focus energy on insulting the other side. Now, this isn't just insulting Trump supporters or insulting Republicans. This is also it never works to insult a political party's supporters. That just doesn't work. That is not what's going to win you. Always think in this position. I always think when people are on the show that the people that come on the show are going to disagree with me. That's why I don't do personal attacks when people believe a certain thing. I think dialogue is important. Dialogue is what convinces people of things. When people come on the show, I assume many of them are probably going to agree with me because they're already gotten filtered out. If they don't, people don't like listening to things that disagree with them. Fine. But I always try to run it through the guise of, imagine someone is not convinced of my position. I'm going to bring them on. I'm going to feel like I'm having a conversation with them. I'm going to lay it out for them, okay? I'm not going to make them feel stupid for thinking something, and I don't think we should make Trump supporters feel stupid either, okay? That's just not how we are going to win this. I say we. I don't consider myself a Democrat. I'm an independent. I am going to vote for Biden. I'm not necessarily fucking happy about it, but to me, it's a no fucking brainer. I think I would have liked someone more inspiring than Biden. It is what it is. Doesn't matter. I'm going to vote for him 100%. But it's just if you actually want, if Susan Rice and people that like making comments about the other side, if you actually want to win, that's not how you do it. That's actually the opposite of winning. The only thing that matters is the scoreboard. Welcome to democracy. Welcome to modern civilization. Welcome to how the better part of humanity conducts itself. Welcome to the game. I'm Dick Lucas. This was an epic show, epic riff session, a lot more riffing. I like just riffing on things. This is fun instead of reading just constantly. But sometimes I got to read. I feel like you got to. So what we do this show, noon Eastern, Chuck Finch-Finley, producer, noon Eastern every Saturday. It's also wherever podcasts are available, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Just search no space gradient, no gradient. Just search that. Thank you so much for joining. This was fun. Keep that. If you have any feedback, feel free to email me, dick@nogradient.com. Feel free to tweet at me. Yeah, we're keeping the dialogue going and super fun. Let it ride, let it rip. Register to vote, baby. Vote.org. Peace.